listener production.
Good morning, sports fans. Welcome to The Scorecard. I'm Liam Flanagan, and this is your fast, fun hit of sport for Tuesday, the 30th of March. But I'm sorry to say, folks, it looks like we're heading back to Bubble Town.
Wasting away again in Margaritaville.
No, not Margaritaville. Bubble Town.
The Broncos are no longer Brisbane-based, with the team setting up camp in Sydney tonight. The drastic measure taken to avoid Brisbane's COVID lockdown and ensure the Broncos' clash with the Storm goes ahead as planned on Friday night.
Yes, the Brisbane Broncos are on the move, having flown out of Queensland yesterday before a 3-day lockdown for the greater Brisbane area off the back of a new batch of COVID cases in the region. This comes hot on the heels of the AFL's decision to relocate Thursday night's game between the Lions and Collingwood from the Gabba to Marvel Stadium in Melbourne.
There are now more community transmission, and these people have been out and about in the community. What this means for Greater Brisbane is that we will have to go into a 3-day lockdown. This is the UK strain. It is highly infectious.
Queensland Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk speaking yesterday, but the lockdown's impact doesn't stop there. The Sydney Swans have also been forced into isolation because of their trip to Brisbane in round 1, meaning they're currently seeking exemptions from the AFL to continue training ahead of their round 3 clash against Richmond at the MCG this weekend. And the Gold Coast Suns will fly out early this morning ahead of their clash against the Crows in Adelaide on Friday to avoid any possible complications.
This won't end well.
Yeah, it probably won't. Victoria has already declared the Greater Brisbane area a red zone, meaning a 14-day isolation period on arrival. Western Australia is initiating a hard border closure with Queensland from today, as will South Australia. Walls are going up around here faster than on an episode of The Block.
Tools down!
But ultimately, if states and territories are putting these restrictions in place again, the AFL and NRL are likely going to be forced to move teams back into bubbles if they want their codes to continue. And they do. Because off the back of last year's COVID-affected seasons, they can't afford to lose any more cash. The NRL is set to heed the calls of the mob and the Rugby League Players Association today.
Tomorrow at the Independent Commission meeting, they will sign off on an 18th man.
Buzz Rothfield breaking the story on NRL 360 last night that the Australian Rugby League Commission is set to sign off on the introduction of an 18th man at their meeting today. But there's a catch. Actually, there are 2 of them. There are catches.
The first one is you have to have 3 players fail a HIA, like Cronulla did the other night at Parramatta, before you can use your 18th player.
What? 3 players have to be concussed before you can introduce your medical sub. Something which James Hooper pointed out last night on that same show has only happened once in 184 games since the start of last year. Okay. What's the other catch?
With the 18th player, they're even thinking of making it let's say, a development or emerging player. So that will stop coaches putting experienced 26, 27-year-old middle forwards on as 18th man to use them late in the game when they'd be handed.
Yeah, I don't reckon this second bit's going to happen. How can you define who is an emerging player or a development player and who isn't? What if a club doesn't have an emerging player or a development player available and fit? Look, the point is, it looks like the Rugby League Players Association is set to get its way, and the welfare of the players will be made a priority. As for the details around the medical substitution, let's just see what the NRL says when it's made official.
The Giants' Sam Reid has been offered a 2-week ban for his bump that concussed Nat Fyfe.
Giants veteran Sam Reid has been offered a 2-week suspension by the AFL's match review officer Michael Christian for his bump that left Fremantle Dockers captain Nat Fyfe concussed in Sunday's game.
So we went through a process of determining whether Sam elected to bump or whether indeed he was just bracing.
And there's a number of factors.
Blah, 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 blah. AFL match review officer Michael Christian explaining the reasoning behind the 2-match suspension and, frankly, putting me to sleep in the process. The Giants have until the end of today to challenge the ban, but why would they bother? The message from the AFL is clear. If you bump someone and they get concussed, you're out! Remember when Steve Smith responded to questions about Pat Cummins' potential captaincy of the Australian cricket team and his efforts captaining New South Wales back in February?
I think being a fast bowler, it'd be tough, but that's not for me to really answer.
Yeah, it was good. Pretty easy day, I think, today. I don't think there was too much to sort of do. Not a tough day, but did good in his first day.
Well, it would appear only a month or so later why Steve was so reluctant to heap praise onto Pat. He wants to be captain again.
Oh, there's a big surprise. That's an incredible... I think I'm going to have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
It's been 3 years since Smith lost the captaincy after that little incident with the sandpaper in South Africa, and yesterday he told News Corp, "I've certainly had a lot of time to think about it, and I guess now I've got to a point where if the opportunity did come up again, I would be keen." Smith did, however, pledge his full support to current national skippers Tim Payne and Aaron Finch, and said he'd be fine if Cricket Australia decided to take a different path when appointing a successor. But it's fair to say that his hat is well and truly in the ring, which would be confusing because don't they all wear the same hats? So how would you know whose was whose? And that is your fast fun hit of sport for Tuesday the 30th of March. Now, I just sit and hope that the quick responses to the new COVID cases in Brisbane work and that sport doesn't have to shut down again. Because do you know how hard it is to do a sports podcast when they shut down sport? I'm Liam Flanagan. We'll see you tomorrow on the scorecard. Hopefully.
Listener.